Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to this introless episode of the Bull Devlog. I am currently hiding behind the stock footage because I managed to catch a good old dose of COVID. I am now 6 days deep and my test results have finally started to come up negative again. That's why I wanted to rush to get this video out the door so I can restart working on the project. I am terribly sorry for the missing upload last week, but I was struck down by an absolutely avoidable and self-inflicted hangover. I wanted to drop a new episode last Thursday then, but there COVID gave me a good smack on the noggin. And actually, my schedule is something I wanted to talk about today, because I wanted to clarify how much I actually get to work at the moment and how much my initial plans did not work out, and why. But before that, let's first have a look at all the things that are new to the project. So, where to start? Oh right, I gave Jeremy the gun, which means there's now finally some resistance in the game. Though I have not yet implemented the aim leading, meaning the enemies can't really hit you as long as you're moving. And with the new blocky environment, I also have constant problems with my enemies breaking down after attacking. So they are not really a threat yet, but hey, that's something. Furthermore, I worked on the mech. Not visually, mind you, but on its behaviors and functions. So, new mech behavior. Walls. And what happens when I walk against one. When you walk into a wall, you are first greeted by a collision camera shake. Then, if the wall's still there, the mech slows down its movement like it's struggling to push against the surface. And please excuse the small tangent here, but there's one thing that I need to ask. So, for this to work, to register when I walk into a wall, there's this nice hit event function that triggers every time the character, well, hits something. This is all fine and dandy, besides the event firing multiple times each frame, but there's no event or trigger that notifies when an ongoing collision has stopped. So my solution boils down to this: I compare two bools, one for hit this frame and one for hit last frame, and then check if there is a discrepancy and firing events accordingly. This feels and looks a bit awkward, but works reliably at least. I could work with the setter imaginably, but given that there is no end hit event, I'd have to decouple it similarly from the hit event, and then it would boil down to essentially the same. Like, is there an elegant solution that I'm just not seeing? Anyway, back to the character controller. Falling now kinda works, meaning you now take damage when you fall faster than 10 meters per second and die after 20. When landing, that is. The landing is also accompanied by a scaling amount of screen shake and a small pause before the movement restarts. This is where the landing animation would be played once I am working with animation blueprints, but that's still far down the road. I also noticed a bit of a problem with the capsule collider when walking off edges. This small moment here where the rest of the character slides over the edge before actually starting to fall, and I think that's a bit awkward and I'd rather have a cylindrical collider with a hard edge, but that's not a relevant problem for now, I feel. With the ability to stop movement for a set amount of time, I also introduced a new enum-based state to the mech. This also allows me to have the mech now in a turned off mode, from which I can start it. With the conceptual engine becoming more relevant, I also had the idea to combine some of the systems I still had to work on under one hood. That's why I set up a value that represents the engine's oil temperature. If it exceeds safe levels, say by working against an unusual resistance, like walking into a wall, or by being close to, let's say, magma, it starts to periodically deal damage. This helps me reinforce the navigational challenge by punishing walking into an obstacle, and lets me implement other hazards the same way. Additionally, this also allows me to put a thermometer into the final cockpit with some handwritten notes scribbled against the wall next to it, which I just kinda like the idea of. While we are back at the wall collisions, there was also one situation that made me want to rework the way I currently implemented movement with the pre-built character movement component. So, if the mech is walking against the wall with the steer stick pushed to full throttle, the character movement component still registers the current walk speed as nearly zero, with no way besides the input to see how much the character still wants to go in that direction. In my case, I could not even use the input because I want the actual mechanics, basically, to lag behind, like stepping on the gas in an old car. It's kinda hard to explain, so imagine it like this. The forward movement on the steer stick slowly spins up an engine inside the mech. The faster the engine spins, the faster the character can go. The character movement component now only gets full throttle input to accelerate way faster than that change to this limit. This way I can fake a slowly accelerating mech, have an eye on the engine load, and quickly accelerate if the mech is at full power but was stuck somewhere, on the edge of a building or something like that. It's actually super simple, but feels a bit hacky. Other than the new cubes in the level, that's it for now. And also, that's not much for 2 weeks, to be honest. So, let's talk about work hours. Yay! To be blunt, I have rarely worked a full 5 days a week on this game since I've started in late October. Either because of personal events, like the game jam or visiting my family, sickness or work. I especially underestimated the amount of work that goes into the videos, which tend to swallow an entire day instead of the 5 hours I predicted I could spread over the weekdays. In the past, I worked on them mostly on Sundays, thus I often made Saturdays my free days of the week and pushed my mini job to the end of the month, which in turn cut into my weekdays. And it's not even like I always uploaded every week, just to be fair. I like me a lazy weekend. And also, I did not work full 8 hours every day I went to work on the project in my uni. Most shake out to be in the range of 6 to 7 working hours, plus a break between 12 and 1 to go to the university's canteen. And this is probably the only thing in my schedule that I can really work on currently. Besides that, there are not much things that I can or want to change, besides being sick like every 2 months. And with the upcoming holidays that I spent with my family, there is going to be another gap in the productive days. Nevertheless, I wanted to be honest about the actual amount of work I do. It feels a bit strange to have this project already so strictly categorized as work mentally. But this is also part of the reason I struggle to get stuff done on my own, like I mentioned in the very first episode. It's not that I dislike working on Bull, far from it actually, but I guess I have to make up for what I lack in intrinsic motivation with discipline to get anywhere. Well, with Monday already behind me and finally a negative result of the COVID test strip, I hope I can return to the project today. Stay healthy out there and see you all around.